And we're off to Mozambique now, where the leader of the opposition party has planned what is expected to be the biggest protest since the announcement of the election results last month. Podemos leader Venâncio Mondlane and other opposition parties have refused to accept the election outcomes that saw Frelimo's presidential candidate Daniel Chapo declared the winner. Clashes have continued between police and citizens, with activists putting the death toll at around 20. Newzroom Afrika's Juniour Khumalo now joins us from Mozambique. Junior, very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. Tell us about what the situation is like and also the build-up to this protest action.
Indeed, Aldrin. It's a very tense situation here in Mozambique with a lot of law enforcement officials basically being posted all over the country on major intersections just to try and avert that mass protest that is expected to take place today. We do know that the leader of the official opposition, the party Frelimo, that got about 23% of the electoral support, are expected to take to the streets today and show their displeasure. They are accusing Frelimo of basically rigging the elections. We know that Frelimo have been in power since 1975. So they believe that Frelimo did not outrightly win those elections. According to them, Frelimo got about 53% of the votes, making them winners. So they are saying that they have presented the evidence that they had to the country's electoral commission, but this was not received. So today they are going to march. The march is expected to go to either the Electoral Commission offices or the Frelimo offices in the country's capital. We're still not sure, though, whether the leader of the official opposition is going to be leading that march. Since the protest started, it's been a week now since the protest started. He has not been seen in public. He has sent out a few videos encouraging his supporters basically not to go to work and to bring the country to its knees economically so. But he has not been seen in the streets of the Mozambique. So that's why a lot of people are a bit hesitant on whether he is going to lead that march today, Aldrin.
Okay, another thing is also looking at the impact that this has had, of course, on the logistical impact. And yesterday, the decision that was taken to open up the border temporarily. Let's just quickly bring in Mweli Masilela, who is currently at one of those borders and monitoring the situation there. What is the situation like this morning, Mweli, considering what happened yesterday, also hearing of incidents of some of those trucks that were queuing up being looted?
Aldrin, what I can tell you is that the situation is a bit relaxed compared to what we saw yesterday. Remember, yesterday the border was closed, and at a later stage, then we heard from the Commissioner of the Border Management Authority that it is now partially opened. But looking at the situation at the present moment, there is some movement. They are still allowing vehicles, whether taxis, buses, and other modes of transport, including trucks, to cross between South Africa and Mozambique. But the evidence is still on the ground, Aldrin. When you look behind me, there's still some of those vehicles that were set alight on Tuesday night. And for the first time since I came here at the Libombo border post, I'm seeing some law enforcement officers from Mozambique, which is police officers as well as members of the army, patrolling, which tells you and actually confirms what was said by the Commissioner of the Border Management Authority in Mozambique, that they are now happy to open for people to move because they've been assured by authorities or their counterparts in Mozambique that the situation is stable. But as my colleague Juniour Khumalo has said, today it's expected to be one of those big marches or protests on the side of Mozambique. In fact, that's what some of those people who've been crossing from the South African side to Mozambique have been telling me even yesterday, that they want to be allowed to go back home to fix their country. So we'll see as to what happens going forward or as the day progresses, because the problematic area on the Mozambican side, Aldrin, has been Risano Garcia. That's where we've seen those protests flaring up. But at the present moment, I can tell you that everything seems to be stable.
Everything seems to be stable where you're at. Let's go back now to Junior. Junior, yesterday we also heard the response from the Defense Department. Is it clear as yet whether there could be a state of emergency being declared in Mozambique?
It's still a bit unclear whether that state of emergency is going to be put in place here in Mozambique, but the army has been deployed to the streets of all of the major provinces here in the country, and they are patrolling alongside with the police officials just to try and make sure that the protests don't basically lead to a violent uprising here in the country. But a lot of people, even yesterday, just driving around the country, have decided to stay at home because the situation is that volatile. Most of the major cities, when you're driving around, it's very empty. You will see a lot of law enforcement vehicles driving around, but not a lot of people driving around. But in the townships, the situation seems to be a bit different, with a less law enforcement officials and more individuals actually protesting in the township areas, because they're saying that they are being prevented from protesting within the CBDs of most of these cities. So now they are resorting to taking their protests into the townships, Aldrin.
And Junior, anything as yet from the Electoral Commission in Mozambique, considering the dispute that has been lodged by the opposition?
The Electoral Commission announced the election results on the 24th of October, and they did announce that Daniel Chapo of Frelimo was the winner. So as far as the communication from their side, that's the last communication that we've heard. But what most of the citizens here in the country are waiting for is a decision from the courts, because Podemos has taken the matter to the courts to try and ventilate it through those legal processes. But despite taking the matter to court, they are saying that they don't trust the courts or any law enforcement officials, because they believe that they are in the pockets of the Frelimo, the leading government party. Also, another concern that has been raised by the opposition parties, Aldrin, is that the numbers of the people that have been announced as having lost their lives, they're saying that those numbers have been decreased by the government. They should be more than what is currently being reported. We heard some of the civil society organizations saying that the numbers are about 24 in the meantime, but the opposition parties are saying the numbers are way more than that, with over 100 people also being reported as having been injured on the ground, Aldrin.
Okay, and Mweli, just concluding that discussion with you, looking at from a political perspective and the regional perspective, SADC, of course, calling that emergency meeting that will be taking place next week in Harare to deal with the situation in Mozambique. What are some of the people saying about if they have any expectations whatsoever, whether an organization like SADC will be able to quell the tensions that are currently playing out in Mozambique, also considering that at some point, President Nyusi himself didn't seem to have confidence when it comes to deploying troops as per a resolution of SADC when it comes to the insurgency that was taking place in Cabo Delgado. So any confidence that is being expressed?
Aldrin, I can tell you that most of the people we've spoken to, they've lost that trust in as far as African leaders are concerned, not only on the southern parts of Africa, but generally they're saying that they've seen a lot happening and seemingly there is no intervention. If you look, for example, in Eswatini, 2021, we had serious protests taking place there. Also, citizens of that country expressing their unhappiness about the current regime. But look at what happened up to so far. There was a dialogue that was expected between government as well as some of those political parties and other leaders of civil society, but that hasn't really happened. So they're saying that as much as they understand that there are organs in Africa as well as beyond the African continent, they don't trust those leaders anymore. That is why then they're saying they only believe on themselves now. They want to fight. Looking into the results where Daniel Chapo of Frelimo was declared the winner. They are saying they don't understand as to why he's presented as someone who got above 70%. In fact, they even made an example to say that it's not only those who are staying in South Africa who are complaining, those in Portugal, India, they are challenging the results. They're even saying that the problems are there in Mozambique, they are visible. There's lack of jobs, there's hunger. So they want someone who is going to ensure that there's change in that particular country. But as my colleague Juniour Khumalo has said, this is a matter that is going to be ventilated in court, and we'll wait and see, Aldrin, as to what transpires. Also, we'll also wait and see if that SADC meeting that is being organized to be held in Harare will indeed come with results that will satisfy some of those who are disgruntled at the present moment.
William Masilela as well as Juniour Khumalo, they're joining us from Mozambique. Actually, our Minister of International Relations, Ronald Lamoule, has issued a statement saying that he was in conversation with his Mozambican counterpart, and they're calling for calm and restraint to allow the electoral process to conclude successfully. A bit later on,